Here's Mike.
Thank you, Kamala. A nation screams its gratitude for picking Tim Walz to be your vice presidential running mate. House Majority Whip Tom Emmer, I think we interviewed him at the RNC. He's the highest ranking House lawmaker. Wrote on X, it's not surprising Harris picked Tim Walz to be her running mate. He embodies the same disastrous economic open borders, soft on crime policies Harris has inflicted on our country the last 4 years. Elise Stefanik, the firebrand from New York, wrote, the Democrat Party makes history as they anoint Harris Walz to the ballot this November, representing the most radical far left wing ticket in history. How are Democrats too stupid to realize that how this is going to all backfire? This is why I'm not convinced she's going to stay on the ticket. They may pull a rabbit out of their hat in Chicago. I keep threatening to bring the show to Chicago, and everybody groans because I don't want to go anywhere near Chicago. But, man, don't worry. We'll cover it every day. We will cover it every day. You know who's happy about Tim Walz? Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She wrote on X, Vice President Harris made an excellent decision in Governor Walz as her running mate. You want to hear Tim? You want to know anything you need to know about Tim Walz? No, you could end this all in 9 seconds. Kamala Harris may just have secured an overwhelming victory for Donald Trump with a 9-second clip that you could put on a loop. I give you Kamala Harris's vice presidential running mate, Governor Tim Walz from Minnesota.
But we can get out there, reach out, make the case. And for one thing, don't ever shy away from our progressive values. One person's socialism is another person's neighborliness.
One person's socialism is another person's neighborliness. I love this. It's Christmas in August. We just got a big gift. Enjoy it. Be grateful. Be appreciative. Because Kamala Harris has once again blundered her way into a disastrous pick. Can you play that again, Christian? We probably ought to play this all day long. We ought to put this on practically on a loop one more time.
But we can get out there, reach out, make the case. And for one thing, don't ever shy away from our progressive values. One person's socialism is another person's neighborliness.
That's the guy that Nancy Pelosi called a Heartland America Democrat. One person's socialism is another person's neighborliness. Yep, that's Governor Tim Walz. He's a good guy if you want to see your city burned down because people want to riot over the death of a black man. That's your guy. If you want to make sure there's mask mandates and we're strapping masks on 5-year-olds and he wants to brag about shutting down the entire economy. Tyrant, you think Gretchen Whitmer's bad? She's a piker compared to this guy. This is great, great news. Lindsey Graham, through a reference to socialist Bernie Sanders on X, he wrote, Harris feels the burn, B-E-R-N, and picks Walz. Thank you, Kamala. Governor Tim Walz is a dream for the radical left. Here's Mark in Chicago. Hello, Mark.
Hey, Mike, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Hey, even better now that we caught this news.
This is great news.
I just wanted to say that fantastic news. I truly believe that the Democrats are doing this, especially Kamala Harris, because they want to thumb their noses at Republicans and say, whether you like it or not, we can shove it down your throats. Well, I believe that this may backfire, and I really hope that we show up in November and take advantage of this moment.
It was a disastrous selection, Mark, and let me tell you why. Josh Shapiro kept me up at night. I thought, golly, don't let them be smart enough to pick him. I hope she's not bright enough to go with the safe choice and quell all the accusations of anti-Semitism that are being directed at the Democrat Party. Now they confirm it. Don't give them Pennsylvania. He's a popular guy in blue Pennsylvania, or purple Pennsylvania, I guess. Bad news for us if she'd have gone with Josh Shapiro. Thank the Lord in heaven above that she did not. I'm glad she went with this radical, progressive, a wolf in sheep's clothing. Kayleigh McEnany was on Fox News moments ago, reacting. Of course, she served in the Trump administration, and I think she's got great analysis over Kamala's selection of Minnesota Governor Tim Walz.
This is a stunning choice. I imagine there's a lot of cheering at Mar-a-Lago at the moment. Look, Tim Walz, he's no one to scoff at. He unseated a 6-term Republican in Congress. He won a conservative district. He began as a moderate. And then he had a radical transformation as soon as he got a trifecta in Minnesota. I think it is fair to call him a progressive in sheep's clothing. When you look at his record over the last few years, what you see are transgender surgeries for minors, carbon electrical grid by 2040, driver's licenses for illegal immigrants. In function, his abortion policy allows abortion until birth. These are policies that are far to the left of America. And as John McCormick at the Wall Street Journal pointed out, Kamala Harris has to do the exact opposite of what Tim Walz did. Tim Walz became more progressive. Kamala Harris is trying to become more moderate. But Republicans are going to say, you've shed all your progressive policies, but yet you chose a progressive instead of the guy who outperformed Donald Trump and Joe Biden in Pennsylvania, and that man's name is Josh Shapiro.
And that could potentially bring support from Jewish voters, something the Harris campaign needs sorely, no matter who's on the ticket with her. What do you think tipped the scales for the campaign? It is, as you mentioned, a bit of a shock choice. Do you think it was an ideology bent here, or do you think it was based on raw polling?
So the word coming out of the Kamala Harris camp to reporters was chemistry. She wanted someone with whom she had chemistry. I would love to know what Obama said to her on the phone, because this time last cycle, 4 years ago, Joe Biden was having apprehensions about choosing Kamala Harris. He called Obama. He expressed these reservations to Obama per CNN, and Obama said back to him, none of that is as important as winning. So I wonder what Obama said, because if this is a chemistry choice, that's fantastic if you have chemistry. But if you don't make it to Pennsylvania Avenue in 2 months, the chemistry doesn't matter. So I've got to believe this was an innate decision of how she was feeling. But feelings should go out the window when you're looking at the path to 270.
Well, good. I love it. And this is, again, now my worry is that they realize what a disaster she is. The honeymoon is over. The bump is over. Trump's ahead in every swing state. David Axelrod says that all this euphoria about Kamala is delusional, and he's right. I mean, he's a sober reminder that Trump is the odds-on favorite to win on November the 5th. And they're going to, listen, they're going to keep throwing crap at him. It's going to keep coming. They're going to sentence him. The Supreme Court refused to delay Trump's sentencing. So, good. Sentence him. Put an ankle bracelet on him. Put him in prison. And watch what the American people do with that. There's a lot of good things going our way. And today was a great day for the Trump-Vance campaign. Thank you, Kamala, for screwing this up as badly as you did. We'll take Tim Walz all day long. I'll take Minnesota. You can have Minnesota. I'll take Pennsylvania. I like the sound of that. I love the sound of that, actually. They just handed Pennsylvania to Trump-Vance, and very well may have just handed the election to Donald Trump. Not that he wasn't going to win anyway, but boy, this is great news. This is a terrific, terrific decision by Kamala Harris. Thank you, Vice President Cackles. You just handed Pennsylvania over to Trump. Sources are now claiming that Kamala was afraid that Josh Shapiro from Pennsylvania would upstage her. You cannot make this crap up. I'm telling you, I'm in such a good mood today. I hope you are too. We just got a huge political victory handed to us. This is a massive, massive gift because Kamala, who's in over her head, who doesn't know what she's doing, who won't hold a press conference, who is an absolute disgrace in terms of policy, She's now being joined on the ticket by a tyrant named Tim Walz. Ask anybody. Hey, let's just open up the phone lines to Minnesotans right now. 1-800-655-MIKE. If you're from Minnesota, you go ahead and call me right now and tell me what you think of Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota. Christian, our video guy, put up a chyron just now. If you're watching on Salem News Channel, they're burning down the house. And they are. They burned down Minnesota for 3 straight days. Remember that after George Floyd? I'll bet Minnesotans know. I'll bet people in Minneapolis remember. I'll bet people in St. Paul know. 800-655-MIKE. I want to hear just from Minnesota callers for the first 5 minutes of this hour. I want you to give us an assessment of Governor Tim Walz. You know, Kamala Harris can plant stories with a salivating, fawning news media that she was worried about being upstaged by Shapiro. She wasn't worried about being upstaged. She didn't want to deal with the anti-Semites of her party. She didn't want to infuriate the Ilhan Omars and the Rashida Tlaibs of her party. She didn't want to deal with that. They're anti-Semites. You can't put a guy named Shapiro on the ticket. What about all these pro-Hamas protesters? They would be very unhappy. They'd be very disappointed. You can't do that. Shapiro? No. We needed a guy named Walz. You want to hear Walz? Hey, Christian's got 9 seconds that sums up everything you need to know about a lunatic, far-left radical named Governor Tim Walz. Hit it.
But we can get out there, reach out, make the case. And for one thing, don't ever shy away from our progressive values. One person's socialism is another person's neighborliness.
That's right. That's right. And by the way, Christian, when you play that, block out that barcode that has a donate page for the Kamala Harris campaign. I don't want anybody to even think about having an opportunity to donate because I am unapologetically wanting a Republican victory on November the 5th. Texas just sent me a text. They should make all their campaign stops aboard one of those electric school buses that Kamala Harris loves so much. Now, I'm not even sure, according to Minnesotans who are texting me, that Trump loses Minnesota. The texter says Trump has a lot of support here. It's not a done deal. Darren's in Rochester, Minnesota. Darren, give me a Minnesotan's perspective on Tim Walz.
There's 2 Minnesotas, really, Mike. There's a 7-county metro area, and then there's the rest of the state. The rest of the state cannot stand him, and I don't think it's going to help in this state.
And you know, I'm glad you called, Darren, and reminded me of something that's really important. And that is, I made a mistake in saying that, you know, Minnesota's a lost cause. Minnesota's not a lost cause. Minnesota is like, in many ways, New York, California. I remember when I first got the job at WABC in New York City, and I couldn't believe how many conservatives were all around Manhattan. But Manhattan is so populous, that's why it's such a blue state. It's because of the big metropolitan areas. It's not Long Island. Long Island is conservative. Westchester, conservative. Minnesota is the same way. Because of the big populated cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul, all the rest of the state is kind of left behind in the wash. So, you know, this is really, really important to remember. So thank you, Darren, for reminding me that there are truly plenty of people that represent real Minnesota nice. Oh, the Ilhan Omar tweet, that was perfect. Congratulating Kamala for picking Tim Walz and saying this is what Minnesota nice is all about. Yeah, right. She's real Minnesota nice. Kevin's in Burnsville, Minnesota. Hey, Kevin, welcome to the Mike Gallagher Show. How are you?
Thank you for taking my call, Mike.
You bet.
Mike, he had an $800 billion surplus and a $700 million shortfall on light rail. He did not take the $18 billion surplus to pay off the $700 million shortfall on light rail. He gave us more taxes to pay for that shortfall in light rail.
I mean, Walz and the dirty Democrats in Minnesota they wasted no time in finding out different ways to completely obliterate the surplus, did they? And then,
Yes, they did.
and incidentally, somebody texted me that Minnesota is now the abortion headquarters of America.
Hey, Mike.
Yep.
Mike.
Yeah.
Hey.
Hey.
There's a saying, and I stole this from my brother.
Yep.
The Democrats have got what it takes to take what you've got.
There you go. I like it. Glenn's in St. Paul, Minnesota. Hey, give us a St. Paul perspective on Governor Tim Walz, Glenn.
Hey, Mike. So
Hey.
2 nights ago, I drove over to my hometown of Minneapolis. Love your show.
Thank you.
And it is a war zone. I drove around the Cedar Riverside area with Somalian community. There's drugs and drug addicts everywhere, just like downtown San Francisco and Philadelphia. Another thing is Walz is a teacher. He's very much in cahoots with the teachers union.
Yep.
They will take your children away from you. My kid just got through graduating from the Roseville school system, and it's all about, do you think you might be gay? We won't tell your parents. It's just awful what's happened in Minnesota. Someone needs to put the videos of what's going on down here on YouTube so people don't vote for this guy, because this is what's going to happen to the entire country.
Well, I just got a text message from South Carolina that says Kamala Harris's anti-Jewish feelings just lost her the election. This is a big decision because Josh Shapiro was the safe choice, was the smart choice. It would have been the right choice. Guess what? Pennsylvania, real important here. I was worried. I have to admit, I was worried about Josh Shapiro as the pick. But guess what? It looks like we dodged that tough challenge. And I still think Trump will win despite whoever Kamala would have picked. But Tim Walz, this is a big, big gift. This is Christmas in August. And speaking of South Carolina, I'll be there in a few days. You know, a lot of people have followed the story of how I started on what is now WORD decades ago. And through a series of events, I had to leave the station to go to another station across town. Then the company I worked for sold the station, so I was sort of a man without a country. Well, thanks to the decision from the WORD management, I'm back on 98.9 WORD, the voice of the Carolinas, and people are so happy with and Joey Hudson came along with me. He's got an early morning show now, and he does a segment during my show on 98.9 WORD. And I just got the nicest text from Greenville. Mike, I just want to say I've been listening to you since your days on the radio locally in Greenville, and I must say you've grown into the closest thing to Rush Limbaugh on the airwaves today. I absolutely love your show. Well, you made my day. Thank you so very much. And hey, we got good news the other day. I mean, we sort of, I think, almost tripled the ratings in our time slot since returning to WORD. So I'm honored and I'm humbled and I'm so blessed to get to spend as much time as possible on beautiful Lake Keowee and in beautiful downtown Greenville and Spartanburg and Anderson and Western North Carolina. I'm over the moon and can't wait to be back home again in a few days, because for me, South Carolina is sort of my, the upstate is my home away from home. So thank you, Greenville, for that great, great note. You made my day. 800-655-MIKE. Let's continue. We got a lot more coming up here in the Relief Factor studios. Christmas in August, Kamala Harris gifting Donald Trump with the selection of radical extremist Tim Walz to be her vice presidential running mate. I'm liking our chances more and more every single day.